Welcome to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Caleb Teskey. I'm back for part two with Jack Nichol from Cannatrim in Saint Albans, co-owner of VP of distribution for Ojorojo Cannabis. I'm going to get that name right one of these times.
Yeah, it's kind of a tongue twister.
Now, Jack, you also, in a couple of these stories you sent me, mentioned something about studies that cited a decrease in opioid deaths in towns with multiple dispensaries. Would you care to talk about that?
Yeah, it's cool. There was they did data points with like the amount of dispensaries per town and how many percent opioid use went down per dispensary, believe it or not. I think, with just one dispensary, I think, I forget what the exact figure was, but it was like 7% or something like that, right? Down like 7%, but it's definitely not up, right? We're staying the same. It actually goes down. But as you put more, and I'm not saying that every town should have as many dispensaries in it as possible. Obviously there's a balance, right? But with bigger municipalities or cities, you could get into some double-digit decreases here with multiple dispensaries and opioid use. Yeah.
Now, Jack, I actually read some of these studies, and what I've from what I've observed, it seems like the study suggests that after retail dispensaries are opened in a certain location, there's a 6-month dip where opiate overdoses drop significantly, although they've said that they can't track that past 6 months. Although I talked to a couple folks who work in ERs who said even if we could get a 6-month break from these overdose deaths and these cases we're dealing with, that would be huge for us.
Yeah. So maybe that's something that that's my fault. I should have hammered home as a kind of a factoid in Swanton when I was doing it, that, up in this area, in our neck of the woods in Franklin County, opioid use is obviously a big fear of the law-abiding citizen, and, this would actually have a positive effect on it.
Well, maybe you could take that to your next meeting.
I know, right? Yeah. I don't know. I'm pretty busy. I don't know if I can, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that I wasn't able to do it. You know what I mean?
Can you tell me about how much time you've spent? Because it seems like you've been, you started the petition in St. Albans. You've been to public meetings, select board meetings. How much time have you invested trying to push this forward?
I don't know. It's been like a year and a half's worth of work between standing out in Taylor Park, asking people for their signature, to making signs to post, to, education, little kind of pop-up education thing we did at the farmers market at Taylor Park last year.
Yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah.
With VGA and Vermont Cannabis Nurse Association. Did I say that right?
Jesse Lynn Dolan.
Jesse Lynn Dolan's gig.
And VGA, did they join you for these events?
Yeah, it was so cool. It was like one of the coolest, professional days I've had in one of my career. Just it was cool to have all that expertise under one tent, just kind of hanging out for the day and talking to people that came by. But I put in a lot of time making those connections happen. What are we going to do? The planning, executing, going to meetings, research, not to mention the hundreds of hours, if this goes through, being ready to execute a business plan, right? So I had had one ready to go that I'm not really able to use. So it's like, a lot of time went into it. It wasn't a shoot from the hip thing. We try to do it right.
Now, as somebody who served your country for many years, is it frustrating to come back home and sort of get this kind of pushback when you're just trying to open a business?
Yeah, I think it is. I think I can say it's pretty frustrating. At this point, it's 2022, and I just feel like we're beyond that stuff at this point. You know what I mean? It's just like the stereotypical cannabis user from my youth of Cheech and Chong, the stinky guy smoking out his van, rolling out, going into, work, and like, it's, I mean, I'm not saying those guys still don't exist. I'm just saying, like, there's the generation, my generation, that has grown up using it and now uses it for medical purposes. Like, we, like to shower daily, pay our taxes, open businesses, you know what I mean? Raise our children with morals about being good people and
Do
helping.
you have children, Jack?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Adelaide.
Okay. So do you talk to your kids about cannabis?
I talk to them in the capacity that they understand what I'm doing with it. Right? Daddy, what is all of this green stuff in these bins?
How old are your kids, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so 7 and 5, basically.
Okay, so young, yeah.
Yeah, they're young. That's called cannabis. Daddy trims that flower. It's very literal. There's no moral good or bad behind what I'm doing at this point. Nor should I think about it. Nor am I going to like frame it that way when they finally come to me and say, what is, hey, listen, my friend told me this stuff is this stuff, or you know what I mean?
Sure.
But yeah, of course I'm honest about what it is with them, because I'm not ashamed of what I do.
Is this a business that you would invite your kids to participate in if you got it off the ground?
Yeah, absolutely. If there came a day when my kids are interested in wanting to work with me, well, two, that would mean, like, one, I'm still in business. That's cool, right? Because that's like, that's, hey,
10
great.
years down the road, yeah.
Woo! That'd
12,
be great.
15,
I'd love it, yeah. I would be so lucky to be still be in business. And then, yeah, too, to get to work with my kids, and kind of pass a legacy onto them for something that I've worked so hard. Well, a lot of blood, a lot of sweat, and a lot of tears went into it. Would be cool. Sure. They don't have to. They can do whatever they want. I don't care.
Yeah, and this is kind of a point I had not considered until just right now, but currently there's like a lot of beef with the public school system. They're trying to teach critical race theory, and there's all these shootings, and there's all these arguments that maybe you should keep your kids home and teach them a skill from home. And boy, this seems like something you could definitely teach your kids how to do from the comfort of your own home.
It's funny that you bring that up, because that's how a lot of that's how the pitch for the guys that have been in the legacy business, so to speak, black market business for so many years, to now get them lured into being legitimate. They're obviously very good at what they do. They have the network to be able to get up and running once they got the piece of paper and the license to do so legally. So to be able to pass on a legacy to your kids because you went legal, you created this awesome business and a brand or whatever, you turned yourself legit, now your kid gets to benefit from it. That's kind of been the pitch for a lot of these guys. And I think it's worked for a lot of them. They're family guys too, right? Like, are all human beings and their families.
Right. Well, when you look at some of the other big industries in Vermont, like dairy and maple syrup, these are all industries where traditionally they're family businesses.
Mm-hmm.
You work with you be in the sugar house making syrup with your kids until midnight, or whatever it is. Do you think cannabis could be a similar type of industry?
I think early on I would have said yeah. I think I would have said yes early on. But after seeing what happened with hemp and seeing what happens when you have unregulated acreage, unregulated access to being able to just grow whatever you want, as big as you want, that kills your neighbor, it kills your price. I look at it much more as, yes, there needs to be a lot of players and a lot of businesses supporting, especially because we have a microcosm here in Vermont. We have to feed ourselves because we can't get main stuff. We can't get stuff from Master or New York right now. We can only feed ourselves cannabis wise. But sorry, what was the question? The original question?
Shit, I've spaced out. I was
yeah.
I was talking about family-owned businesses and getting your kids involved. Shit, I forgot that line of questioning.
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to talk about just the industry, the local industry here feeding itself.
Sure.
We were saying, it's tailor made for it not to be big, right? So that's what we were talking about. We're talking about land size.
Sure.
The rules, I think, written as they are right now, to have pretty much no more than an acre outdoor if you're going to grow THC is great. I think it's an okay rule. That just for right now, it's first year. People can scream and yell they want, but this is not corn. Cannabis is not corn that you put seed in the ground and then you get corn at the end of it, and pretty much A, B, C, D, E, F, and G are all pretty much the same. It doesn't work like that. It's very much craft, trying to maximize the plant's potential. And that lends itself to it not being a silver bullet like hemp. Everyone thought hemp was going to be, you know what I mean?
It's funny you mentioned that thing about corn, because I know one of the board members, Kyle Harris, works for the Corn Refiners Association. So this is something I've actually made comparisons about, because I was slightly worried that maybe they were going to turn from, I see they're growing a lot of GMO corn now in Vermont to feed cows. And I was slightly worried that Vermont's cannabis industry might turn into something like, the Monsanto.
That's really trying to battle that. They're really trying to battle it. And that's why they're putting those caps on outside acreage, because that's what's going on in Cali right now out west, is they didn't really put caps on outside land and outside growing. So all these guys got really good at growing outdoor mids, and people are like, that's good enough. I want to pay an outdoor mid price. I don't need to pay, high premium indoor, because outdoor is good enough for me, and that's kind of killing the price out there. So having a regulated outdoor land size, in my opinion, is the right way to go at this point. And that keeps corporate out of here as well, because then you don't have guys opening up multiple locations and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and I certainly appreciated the one license per entity provision, so that no one could just sort of dominate the entire market. This is one thing that certainly, boy, I'm going a little off script here, but this is certainly a sticking point right now for outdoor growers who are trying to get their seeds in the ground, who are waiting on their licenses to be approved.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating for them right now.
Yeah. Are you a grower?
No, I just know a lot of them. So
okay, cool.
I hear their frustrations. Yeah. I know exactly where they're at.
Me too. Yeah, no, I'm a
where they're at any time, mood wise.
I'm a terrible custody. Well, I'm a good custody, but like I don't know how to grow plants. I'll kill a cactus if you leave it with me.
Well, that's why I started the Cannatrim back in the day, not try to grow, I guess.
Now, let me ask you about that. Did you hire other veterans to work with you?
No, to be honest, you can't afford it, to have to pay anybody else to do this right now. I'm kind of a one-man operation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't really need to have anybody else until harvest comes around, and that, I did that a couple of years ago, had someone help me drive around the state. But that's also when hemp popped. And ever since then, the number of licenses each year has gone down. When I started Cannatrim, to the machine, the cannabis hemp plant flower or the cannabis, THC and intended flower is the same. It doesn't matter to the machine.
Yeah.
So the machines that I bought for hemp, obviously, because that's what was legal for me to do and legal to have my business in. But I knew always when I put my head down every night when I went to sleep that I was waiting for THC.
And which seemed to be a complaint of a lot of people who are like, oh, these guys are just going to do CBD because they're trying to get ready because they're going to push for THC legalization. And I heard a lot of people complain about that. But from my perspective, it does seem like that's exactly what people were trying to do, because changes happen in small steps. We can't just go, hey, straight to THC. That's going to freak a lot of people.
Look what New York just did. The people that got their licenses were the only ones that grew hemp for 3 years straight.
I haven't studied a lot of the other states.
Yeah.
I've been focusing on Vermont.
Those
Tell
are
me
the first
about
ones.
That.
Yeah. I mean, I like so Cannatrim thinks about New York, obviously because we're close across the pond, so to speak. So Plattsburgh customers that could have a lot of, Cannatrim is really excited about New York customers.
Sure.
And the industry coming out. But yeah, the people that got preferential treatment essentially to grow first were the ones that grew hemp for a few years first. So yeah, so I feel like anybody who's mad about people growing hemp to then grow THC, like, well, yeah, that's why we That's why we're doing this. You know
Obviously.
what I mean? Yeah, that's why we're doing this. Because, you know, going into hemp flower, CBD flower, you know, the price per pound before getting into it, before you even put your seed in the ground, what it was last year. At no point was it ever near what THC is wholesale per pound,
Sure.
right? So it's like, yeah, you know, hey, listen, what I got a lot from my growers was, hey, listen, if CBD takes off for me, that's great. I'll be happy. But, you know, when THC becomes legal for us to be able to apply for, that's what we're doing. That's why we're doing this. You know?
Interesting point. All right. Now I want to ask you a little bit more about this stuff in Swanton, because I noticed that they voted against the retail opt-in measure, and then another vote was held a month later, which seemed a little fast.
Yeah, it did. Yeah,
and
normally it did seem fast. Yeah.
So from what I'm told, I interviewed a couple of citizens of Swanton who told me that was unusual, that a revote would come up that fast. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel like that was pretty fast to have basically a vote on the same thing 4 weeks later would be kind of jarring if I was someone who, well, voted either way, right? Oh, we're voting on this again. But it was a legal vote. Obviously, they talked to their lawyers before posing it to the village again. And I don't know the mechanics behind it, but excuse me. But basically, from what I do understand about it, was that the village was able to get it on the ballot the first time very easily and pretty quickly. The town didn't have enough time to talk, to kind of get their ducks in an order and be like, hey, do we want to vote on it this year? Because the vote happened quickly after the village getting it on the first time that it was voted down.
Yeah.
The reason that happened wasn't to blindside anybody. It was because I don't think the idea of even having a legal cannabis dispensary in the village or the town had occurred to either one of them until that point. You know, so it was like, hey, listen, if someone wants to do it, let's put it on there, and then see what the village the village at this point has to say about it. You know, when they said
no. Now, I interviewed a couple people up there, and I posted my interviews to the Swanton community page, which stirred up quite a pot of shit.
Yeah.
And one lady, it's unfortunate because it seems like you went out of your way to attend a lot of these public meetings and try to educate people. And that's still at the end, I have this lady saying, no problem, Jack. This would have been a good place to let the citizens know more about yourself, as many were not aware of the meeting and could not attend. Good luck to you. And that was way after the fact. Do you feel like people should be learning about this shit ahead of time? Or, I mean, you certainly voiced your opinion pretty clearly and loudly at that meeting. How do you feel about that?
Well, that comment in particular, I kind of felt like was blaming the fire department after the fire about putting it out too late. You know what I mean? Because yes, should a town resident or city resident be more civically aware of what's happening every board meeting? Well, yeah, but I mean, no one expects everyone to know the agenda of every board meeting that ever happens.
Absolutely, yeah.
I guess my point was like just that, I guess she made it sound like it was kind of like, I don't know, like what's the word I'm looking for? Covert, all of this stuff happening when the agendas are put out a week or two before they happen.
You're in the paper also.
Where they're multiple recorded. Yeah.
Yeah, multiple stories in the paper, and it seems like they don't care until they're told to care, sort of.
Yeah. So I don't know what I told her. I was like, listen, like I went to the meetings that I went to, which were numerous. I spoke my heart out there for all the questions that were asked, to me, and I would have done the same for her had she attended and wanted to ask me the question.
Isn't that funny? A lady who didn't even go to the meetings telling you that you're the one who's not like making yourself known.
Yeah. So I don't know.
So
it is what it is at this point, I guess.
You have in a number of these stories, you talk a lot about education, which seems like one of your big missions.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Why do you feel that's important?
I don't know what it is about my personality. I just feel responsible. I just feel a duty to do it right because I don't want to screw it up for the people after me trying to get into this industry doing it too. and having, oh, you know what happened the last time we let a dispensary open up around here. I don't want that to happen. We want to do it right. I have 2 young kids, so eventually, and it's a obviously an inevitability when they're exposed to cannabis, that they have the education that they need and it's done properly, without any information that's biased one way or the other. This is just fact. This is the way it is, and I do want to protect them, right? It's like, do I feel like cannabis is for everybody? No, I don't. Do I feel like my kids should necessarily do it? No, I don't feel like my kids should necessarily ever get into it. That's their choice. I'm never, I'll let them decide what they're going to do when they become older. So I'm not going to push them either way. But that's just how I am. So yeah.
Well, that's a respectable point of view there, Jack. You made another great point, I thought, about why the projections for how large this market may actually get are inaccurate, because a lot of people might be playing it close to the chest here. Tell me a little bit about what you meant by that statement.
I think the reporter had asked me how many farms were in Franklin County and how many people were already working on contracts with, so licenses are very specific for what you're allowed to do in legal THC. You're a processor, you're a grower, you're a wholesaler, whatever you do. So if you're smart, you're working with other people and trying to devise a strategy to all help each other and survive the beginning of this craziness that's going to happen. What don't I do? Where's my weakness? What are your strengths? Let's help each other out. And so there is a lot of that going on, a lot of behind the scenes business shuffling going on, and talking to people and figuring out how you can help each other before basically the floodgates open, or where the race starts or whatever. Some maneuvering. Yeah. So there's really no way to know, because no one's going to tell you, hey, listen, this is who I'm working with. This is how many growers are out here. And,
right.
Because it's all it's cannabis, it was illegal to grow for so many years. No one's going to be honest about that stuff anyway. So.
Yeah. Which is one thing I've encountered. Although I'm actually kind of shocked by how many people are willing to share with me now. And it's kind of amazing. 10 years ago, I never would have got these interviews or been able to talk to any of these people about what they're doing, because they would have thought I was a cop or, something like that.
Yeah. Well, these people they have skills, man. They've been doing it for so long and not allowed to do it, but they've been doing it anyway because it's been profitable for them and that's how they've been feeding their families. And now all of a sudden it's legal to do it. Now they're sought after, the same guy that was kind of shunned because he was the guy that grew because, or he grew illegally because the letter of the law said it was illegal. He hasn't changed anything he's doing. He's doing literally the same exact thing he was doing yesterday. Now all of a sudden he's kind of a rock star. That same guy, that same grower, if he's good, he's a consultant, not for, he's not doing just his grow. Like some of my guys, they're not doing just his grow. He's doing other grows, not
right
his grows, but he's consulting other people trying to get into it.
Right.
And now they're paying him because he has it's literally expertise.
Yeah, which must be a strange dynamic if you're
It's weird. He's like, I was just talking to him yesterday. He's like, yeah.
My guy from Forbins, Nick Matei, has been doing this 20 years.
Perfect example.
I've been doing this 20 years and I haven't been able to talk about it with anybody.
Yeah.
And this is what I love doing, and this is like, so it's such an interesting dynamic to see people like sort of coming out of the woodwork now who are like wanted to share the whole time but haven't been able to.
Oh yeah. So like I said, they're rock stars. They're the growers, the rock stars.
So look, before we get out of here, I'm gonna go to the skeet shooting barbecue with Devin from Tall Truck.
Sure.
I wanted to ask you about the Naked Cannabis Farmers Calendar.
Yeah.
Seemed like a good last question.
Yeah, I don't know. That was something that I think did Jesse Lynn do that a couple years ago? Was that last
I don't know. I thought I saw your name attached to it, so
I was not on it. I don't think anyone wants to see this body naked on anything. So I just wanted to help her promote it, and I think she ended up doing it, and it turned out well for people that are much more built for that type of exposure, so to speak.
All right, Jack, listen, do you have any final notes that you'd like to add, or events that you're doing, or things that you're pushing for you'd like to throw in?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is NECAN, Burlington show, June 25th and 26th. It's going to be like a really good show, like for the first time, because a lot of businesses there are going to be focused on you, like me. Cannatrim is going to have a booth
at
there.
Orlando's Cannaplanters.
Cannaplanters is going to be there.
Okay, cool. At Orlando's, I got that on my schedule for the 25th.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I think Cannaplanters. Yeah, Cannaplanters.
It's an after party, I believe.
Oh, cool! Right on.
Maybe I'll see you there.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
So come talk to me. I'm gonna try to do some killer deals that day for people that want to just come to the show. If you're looking to buy and rent, and also for people that are getting into the industry, craft growers, small growers that don't or haven't thought about packaging and labeling. What am I gonna do after I trim this stuff? How am I gonna get rid of it? Contact me at Ojorojo. That's what we're gonna do. That's what we specialize in, and we're trying to be a service, service for this industry here. That's
real quick before we go, I wanted to ask you about packaging, and I totally spaced out. But can we talk about packaging just for a minute?
Oh, yeah.
Here?
That's a big thing.
Yeah, I thought the requirements were silly especially for edibles, the 50 milligram cap.
Right.
I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, there's no there's no in cement regulations for people that like me. There's not many of us that worry about package size and what the package is made of and what kind of child safety has to be on the package. Like the machine that that Ojorojo is going to be using, only works with certain types of things, and so I'm worried about those kind of specifics, and that's the kind of stuff I'm waiting for them to come to kind of a final decision on. But it's just more like the packaging as a whole is a big idea, because if you're a small grower, you only have maybe you and one or two people on staff. Once you've harvested, you've trimmed, now you've got to weigh, package, label, then distribute to a store, make a contract with the store or stores around your area. Ojorojo has already done that. We show up with our compliant van. You see my smiling face get out. I pay you for your flower, and then we take it to our facility. That's the last you see of it. We package and label it for you, and then distribute it out straight to the stores.
I mean, you do have great hair. I'd fucking be happy to see you roll up.
Thanks. I appreciate it. That was pandemic. That was a pandemic experiment.
All right, Jack. Well, I'm going to cut it right here. I really appreciate your time and your insight here. That's been really a great conversation, and I hope that we could follow this up again sometime down the road.
Awesome. Thanks, Caleb. Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me.
Likewise, man. Take care.
See ya. Bye.